Hello and welcome back to Big Mouth, and fancy seeing you here. It's Justice League, a year on. So what has happened? Before we can look forward, we got to look back. I'm going to treat you people watching this video like you're not DC fans, you're not geeks or nerds, that you know nothing about what actually transpired. Well, in about 2011, when Smallville ended, Warner Brothers decided they not only wanted to rebrand a DC TV universe, but they also wanted a DC cinematic universe. And they decided to work with Christopher Nolan, where he would be in this Godfather role, bringing together a team of people who could give us these films. So what happened was Christopher Nolan at first wanted Ben Affleck, yes, Ben Affleck, to head this franchise, but Ben wasn't really interested. And the main idea was for Ben to write and direct a Man of Steel film, a Superman film. But Ben didn't want to do this. He thought he was too inexperienced, but he was very interested in a later date being involved with the franchise. So Christopher Nolan had dinner with Zack Snyder. Now, Chris really liked Zack because he reminded him of himself. He was in a kind of marriage where he works with his wife in his production company where they make the films together, just like him and Emma Thomas. So he liked that, but he also kind of considered directing Man of Steel himself, but then kind of realised after speaking with David S. Goyer that he just couldn't give Superman visually what it needed. And he saw in Zack Snyder a creative talent that visually could give Superman what he needed. So at first Zack and his wife his wife Deborah, who I absolutely adore, she's absolutely beautiful, she's such a lovely person, kind of just didn't see it. And then they saw David and Chris's script, and they actually started to see it. This was going to be a kind of real-world Superman. Now, I'll get into the rights and wrongs of that a bit later. So, basically, not only was Zack going to direct Man of Steel, he would literally be in charge of populating this franchise with directors. He would be employing the directors. He would be doing the casting. So, he was really going to be heavily involved in this because Chris didn't really want to be involved in developing this franchise full time. And this is why he went and got Zack Snyder. So what happened was, as far as I'm concerned, Man of Steel is one of my favourite superhero films. A great film that made around 600 million. There are rumours that that wasn't enough for Warner Brothers, and that's why they wanted to do Batman v Superman and get Batman involved so quickly. But for me, at the time, around 600 million is quite a good figure for a standalone kind of superhero movie, even though Black Panther and Wonder Woman have done really well. But let's not forget Black Panther was already introduced in Civil War, and actually kind of that was a well-established franchise already. So a very different situation. So anyway, it was a mixed response. Some people hated it, some people loved it. It became very toxic about Zack Snyder. So then Zack straight away did a Comic-Con, and I think it was San Diego, and he very excitingly announced that they would be doing a Batman versus Superman, where they cast Ben Affleck as Batman and Jesse Eisenberg as Lex Luthor. Again, people were like, oh my God. Some people loved the casting, some people hated it. Personally, I would never have cast Jesse as Lex, but the reason I was kind of calm about the casting is because Jesse's one of the great actors of this generation. He's so good. So I thought, well, maybe Jesse could do something interesting with this role, which I think he did. I did like his Lex, and I liked what Zack and kind of Terrio and Goyer did with Batman v Superman. But again, this was plugged as a blockbuster, and ultimately, this wasn't a blockbuster. This was a very different type of superhero film. This film broke the internet. Some again loved it, some again hated it. Most critics hated it. and it became very toxic. But Warner Brothers, instead of taking a step back, decided to go straight forward with a Justice League movie. But in between that, we had Suicide Squad. Again, the critics hated it, calling it a mess. But this film made around $800 million and won an Oscar for its soundtrack, and definitely, I think, won an Oscar for costumes or something like that. And Margot Robbie, I think, wholeheartedly around the community, she really got a lot of respect for her Harley Quinn. I personally loved Jared Leto's Joker, but later on, the director did admit that really the Joker should have been the main villain, and there were mistakes made there. We move on to Wonder Woman, which is the first critically acclaimed film, and at this time, the only critically acclaimed thumbs-up film for the DCEU. I thought Wonder Woman, again, was a brilliant film, but I thought BVS was a brilliant film. I enjoyed Suicide Squad. So far, I was really happy and excited, but it was really hurtful and painful to see kind of the hassle Zack Snyder was getting. I thought, so far, so good. But I would concede this wasn't a franchise for all DC fans, and that was an issue. The real issue for a lot of DC fans is it was too real world. It wasn't fantasy. Superman wasn't really the Superman that we knew. There's a lot of heated debate about that still. Anyway, we get to a Justice League. The trailers come out. It looks amazing. We're all really excited that this time the critics will love it. Warner Brothers did their best on a charm offensive by letting them go on the set and talk to Zack and talk to the actors. We thought maybe critically this could be the moment for the DCEU. Now we get the tinfoil hat on and we kind of talk about things that were rumoured to have happened. Because all of a sudden, what was a fact was that Zack Snyder and his wife were going to take a step back because their daughter had killed herself. Now, some people say she was getting trolled because she was Zack's daughter. Nobody really knows the reason why this young lady killed herself, and absolutely tragic. In comes Joss Whedon, apparently a choice of Zack's to finish off this movie and not to change too much and to even make what he did still look like a Zack Snyder film. Officially, this would still be a Zack Snyder film. When we watched it, we realised that they'd totally changed what Zack did with the film. Zack confirmed this on his social network Vero, that they added a lot of things. My issue, I tell you what, after watching this film, I was so heartbroken, and I didn't even think I could continue to support this franchise, because at the end of the day, I didn't think I could carry on, because I expected such an amazing, epic film, and it was, in places, it was amazing. I really enjoyed it, but you can't put out a film with the CGI on Henry's lip, because he was in the middle of filming a Mission Impossible movie. Is it Mission Impossible Fallout, right? He had a moustache, he had a goatee or something like that. And that company, that studio wouldn't allow him to get rid of it. And so they all admitted that they were going to CGI the moustache out. So it was a big problem, because as far as I'm concerned, what should have happened was Zack should have been allowed to finish this movie, and then if they didn't want him involved anymore, then get rid of him. So it was all done so badly. But then, quickly after this film was released, there was rumours of a Snyder Cut. Don't forget, we already had a BVS, Batman v Superman Ultimate Edition. Warner Brothers just felt they couldn't do the same thing again just to justify what went wrong. They wanted to move on from Zack Snyder. There's always been rumours of a Snyder Cut. I do believe there's a cut. I don't believe we'll see it for the next 20 or 30 years. And still people are blogging and talking about that. The Snyder Cut is a saga within a saga. I can make a video just about that, and I have in the past. Personally, I'd love to see this, because there's rumours of Darkseid, of Barry saving Iris, and lots of pictures that confirm all this. But then, like about 6 months later, we had the Wall Street Journal do an article literally shooting down the theories of a Snyder Cut and all of that. This really kind of said something about Warner Brothers. I was absolutely disgusted by this article, and I can tell you, this is an article that Warner Brothers had a hand in. They were feeling the pressure about this Snyder Cut, and they wanted to just cut the rumours out. Now, ever since that article, a lot of the Snyder movement, who have been pushing for this Snyder Cut to be released, have walked away from the movement, sadly. There's still a lot of people that are still interested. So you've got, is it the movie junkie, or I forgot his name, right? And then you've got Chris Wong, who's brilliant. He does ping pong flicks. He's still fighting, but he still says he's a DC fan and he won't walk away. So that article really broke that movement and fandom. So what happened just after Justice League, after the fallout, after only making $600 million, which pretty much paid for the expenses of making the film, but there wasn't a big profit, maybe $100 million after that. So it was a disaster. But then the film that's the only film where I say that was a mess because of the two directors, because of everything that went on. That was a mess. But you can still watch that film and enjoy certain elements, but that's done now. So what happened in after that, they brought in Walter Hamada from New Line Cinema, who had been involved with James Wan and their horror movie franchise from New Line Cinema. Walter Hamada was a great choice because he's a Warner Brothers man, even though he was at New Line. New Line is owned by Warner Brothers. And when we got to San Diego, they had a big banner calling the franchise now The Worlds of DC. Now, some bloggers still say it's not actually going to be the official name, but it is. It wouldn't surprise me when Aquaman comes on the titles, we see a big banner saying The Worlds of DC. And I think this is great because basically what this means is they can pluck any story, any character from any different Earth in the DC universe and make a movie about it. We're seeing it with the Joker movie. So this is what quickly happened. Still lots of rumours about the future of Ben Affleck and Henry Cavill. We still don't know what's going to happen with those guys. But we do know there's a Joker movie which is not set within the DCEU. So I'm very excited. And, the casting and the director, that's a very exciting project. So all of a sudden, Wonder Woman 1984 was sanctioned. That's now been delayed, but, really excited. Birds of Prey's happening. Along with the Joker movie, we're getting a Shazam movie, which is actually being produced by New Line Cinema. And I would say if that film's successful, New Line will take over totally the production of the DC film slate, which is now the Worlds of DC. The DCEU is a nickname we use. It was never an official name. And basically, I think what's happening here, although we had rumours from people like John Campea of a reboot just after the release of Justice League, I think there's a mini reboot happening. There's even rumours from Grace Randolph that Wonder Woman 1984 will be used as a slight reboot, a kind of flashpoint, not involving the Flash. And we're still getting a Flash movie, by the way, because the other day, while on the press tour for The Crimes of Grindelwald, Ezra Miller said, "Nothing's certain in this world, but I'm certain we are going to make a brilliant, kick-ass Flash movie. I know that for sure." So even though that bloggers and DC haters have been trying to put this poison that the Flash movie will never happen, it's going to happen. It's come out from the actor who's playing the Flash. And by the way, Ezra was absolutely fantastic in Justice League. I thought he was brilliant, and I really enjoyed Aquaman. And actually, Cyborg was my favourite character, and it doesn't look like he's going to get his movie, but we might see him kind of within the franchise. Now, kind of the guy who plays Cyborg's a big Zack Snyder supporter, but they all are. And this is my take from it. I'm very sad for Zack Snyder because his universe, for me, was fantastic. But unfortunately, with someone like Zack Snyder, his kind of vision is his vision. And no one must mess with it. And he can't really compromise with his studio. And that's the problem because this DC belongs to Warner Brothers. They're putting up the money. You've got to compromise sometimes. And if you can't compromise, you can't work with a studio. Not a big one anyway. So for me, it's tragic because he did make two fabulous films. And I believe Justice League, his Justice League, would have been amazing as well. So since the release of Justice League, no other, I knew that was going to happen. I've been talking for too long, but no other DCEU movie has been released. It's like they kind of knew when they decided on the release date for Aquaman that they were going to make big changes. It's like they knew that the Justice League movie wasn't going to work out for them, and they just wanted to put it out and get as much money back as they possibly could. And I think it has been a bit of a mess of their own making. But the reality is here, the mistake they made was getting Chris Nolan involved and getting him to bring in Zack Snyder. Now, listen, I'm not against Zack Snyder, but a DC cinematic universe must be for everyone, for the mainstream. That makes sense as a business model for Warner Brothers and for the audience. There's a big audience to tap into, and they haven't tapped into that audience. So meanwhile, Feige and the MCU are doing so well, and DC have been in this troublesome situation. And as a DC fan, that really hurts. It hurts me to see them doing so well and our films being slaughtered. I trust Walter Hamada going forward. I think the right decisions are being made. I'm happy with the films that are being made. But now we have this rumour that Superman's been arrested because, yes, Walter Hamada has sanctioned a Supergirl film, which is great. But we still need Superman. So what's going to happen? My betting is that Henry Cavill may now and again cameo as Superman, but I believe they're prepping a brand new Superman to come from another Earth. That's what I think they're going to do. So I don't think they're going to arrest Superman. I think they're going to take their time, get Superman right for a mainstream audience. I think that, as I say, I think Walter Hamada's the right man. So a year on from Justice League, have lessons been learned? Well, I can tell you, I have seen Aquaman. I did see a screening of Aquaman, and by seeing that film, I can tell you that they have learned their lessons. This is a film for a mainstream audience. This is a film for everyone. But if you're a DCEU fan, you can still enjoy this film. It has depth, it has darkness, but it also has a light touch to it. It also has great comedy to it, and you can see the character's personality. And as I said when I did a video about watching Aquaman, because I can't give you a review because it hasn't been officially reviewed. I can't get my words out. But basically, it hasn't been officially released. So I can't give you a review, but I will say that Orm and Black Manta make Killmonger in Black Panther look like a pussy, right? Because a lot of people are trying to say, oh, this is just like Black Panther. Literally, it is nothing like Black Panther. This film goes on a different narrative tread. It's a much better film for me than Black Panther. I think Black Panther had a great beginning and an okay middle, but I thought the final act of Black Panther, when they talk about the final act of Wonder Woman, which I love, by the way, I actually think they should be saying that about Black Panther, because its third act was like the Phantom Menace. Now, I love the Phantom Menace. I might be one of the few that does, but when you see Jar Jar and the army and all of that, it was very similar to that final act, and the way they dispatched Killmonger was too easy, and he's just a misunderstood hero. But with this, with Orm, you really do, thanks to the fabulous Patrick Wilson, you really do get a complex villain. So I think as DC fans, you're going to enjoy it. And I think a year on from Justice League, we can be confident that with the DCEU, we are moving to a great and wonderful new direction. Thank you very much. If you like the video, press like. Subscribe if you like me, even an inch. Not many people like me, so I could do with some new friends. Like, subscribe, share the video, share the channel. It's a very young channel. I've only got about 70 subscribers, and I value every single one of you. I would like to take this channel and grow it for a bigger audience, because what I like doing is being honest about TV shows and films. I don't want to bullshit you guys. I want us to be honest with each other about what we think. If you think differently to me, that's fine. It's the internet is a reactive forum, and we should respect everyone's opinions, even if we think people are talking a load of bollocks. So thank you for watching the video, and we will talk again soon. Keep it DC. Bye.